We're going to be looking at a REST example for retrieving in this video. In the previous video linked in the playlist below the like button, we go about setting this up, so that will be down there. We're going to be skip over the setup. It's a very short video, and that was on REST example create. So we had this REST service 1 that was for create. Now we're dealing with REST service 2. A lot of the things are going to be the same. We're still going to have this package for employee and our employee DAO. This is what they look like. So we have employee with these variables here, and then employee DAO is basically just going to have this static init emps, and that's going to be calling this method. And this method is just adding these employees to this map every single time. The retrieval or get is going to look a little bit different. It's going to look something like this. So for this one, we still have our static init emps where we call this private right here. And this private is going to add things to our map right here. There is a few differences though, and that's just going to be on this part right here. So what if we want to get an employee? Well, we should pass in the employee number, and it's just going to return the .get of our employee number, right? So we get the employee based on their number. Well, what if we want a collection of employees? We can return this with a list. So we have public, we have list of type employee, and we're just going to call it get all employees because it'll list all the employees. We're going to have a collection right here where we get all the values from this, and then we're going to make a new list of type array list. And then we're going to do a list all with C, and then we're just going to return a list. So we're adding everything that was in C to our list, and then we just return it. So that's going to be for our employee DAO. We of course then have our main REST controller, and this is where we're going to control everything. We also have our REST Service 2 application, but for this is just basically running our Spring Boot. We're going to be running this, but we're not doing anything with it. So let's look at our main REST controller. So for our main REST controller, we can click into it, our com.example.controller. Everything is packages to keep it organized. For this, it's going to be very similar to create, however, still a little bit different. So first, we are going to have this at REST controller. We've had this previously. We have the same method name, and we're going to do an auto wiring here. We have our private employee DAO, and then we have an employee DAO as well. And so this is just the name for this class. We're getting it so we can use it later. And then we have request mapping here. And this is very similar to what we had previously. However, in here, the value is going to be the employee. So we have /employee/employee number. So basically, we want to pass in the employee's number to get the employee. This is to get the very specific employee. It's going to look something like this. So HTTP, we have our URL, we have our port, we have the context, and then employee number. So we could pass in our employee and the number here. And then this method is a request method.get. Previously in create, we can see that we had a request method.post, which is for creating. So this is getting. And this is from a application.json file and then an application.xml file that we're going to be able to use. We have a response body here, and this is where we get our employees. We have to specify the path, and the path variable is going to be called empno. If we go to our employee, we can see we have empno. So that is where that's going to come from. And then we pass the string empno. So we have to pass this and then the actual string itself. Next, we're going to do the same thing, but for our listing. So you can see it's very similar. If we want to do the list, we don't need to pass in the whole number, right? If we want to get all of them, we're just going to pass in our employee. So you have method is equal to request method.get. It's very similar to the first thing. It's the exact same. And this is what it produces based on these files. And then we have our request body. So in our request body, we have our public, and then we have our, instead of employee, just a single employee, we're passing out a whole list. And then we're going to call this get employees. We don't need to specify anything in here because we're just returning everything. And then we just return the list inside of here. So that's how we would go and demonstrate how we would retrieve things from web servers. We need to inject a get method that we didn't previously have in the create. If we want to return all employees, we need to return a collection. We can do this with our list. So inside of our employee DAO, we've created this list right here. Inside of our main REST controller, we have these changes from the previous create. If we want to get an employee from the service, they have to use the HTTP URL. This is going to be pretty similar to what we have to do right here. Not exactly, probably take out the employee number here. And that's it for retrieve. We've gone over create, retrieve. Next we're going to look at update and delete, but those will be in the playlist linked below the like button.